Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who share their great ideas in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Elizabeth Verwey, a serial entrepreneur with over 25 years in business. We'll discuss her experience as a business owner and how you manage the changes to your business model. Elizabeth joins us from Toronto, Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What I'm going to love about our conversation, Elizabeth, is that we're kind of contemporaries. We've both been in business for a number of years. There's been lots of peaks and valleys and ups and downs. So how perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight as an entrepreneur, for a successful entrepreneur for as many years as you have been. What's the ride been like?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes it feels like a roller coaster, and other times it just feels like a river cruise.
That is a wonderful analogy. And I really love it. Hey, listen, we all want to be on the river cruise, right? No, I don't know about you, but I kind of don't want to be on the roller coaster anymore. And I'm wondering if you can give a little bit of insight, because I know that a lot of times our customers give us the direction for our next sort of great idea or the next transition that we're going to make in our business. And
Sure.
You've just recently gone online with a number of courses after having a live speaker series. How did that transition happen? I mean, clearly the economy and, things out of our control had a big impact on that. But were you working on the online courses in the background for quite some time?
Not really. It came to mind really when when COVID locked us down. I found that I had had 7 years of hearing over 100 speakers. 200 speakers now, but 100 when the lockdown happened and 100 online. And I realized how much I'd healed hearing all of those stories of resilience and helping people find the power in what they did to overcome their circumstances. And so I found when I didn't get a lot of satisfaction about being online anymore, that happened in May of 2022, but my clients weren't ready to go back to live events. So all along during 18 months, I had been writing the course to teach other people. And I thought that I would continue spoken lives, and I may, but we're going to have a big celebration called the Silver Linings Gala to celebrate the 200 speakers, and then I'll decide. But in the meantime, over the 7 years, I found a number of speaker series start up, and then just leave.
Disappear. Yeah.
Because they didn't make any money. And I have the business sense to teach people how to do that.
That's a really wonderful sharing of information, because I know, having been a speaker at one of your Spoken Lives events, I know that you modeled your entire focus on a licensee concept.
Yes.
So you started with your own vision, and then as it started to expand, you expanded to include licensees. Give our viewing and listening audience a little bit of a behind the scenes on that, because I'm sure that there's a number of folks who are listening to this and thinking, licensees, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I have something similar that I could do. But I know there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes for that.
Yes.
Can you give everyone a little bit of an insight? What's the first thing they have to do if they're thinking of doing a licensee program?
Well, figure out what they are willing to give the licensor, and then who they want to attract. Right. Because you want to work with people who have the know-how, little bit of know-how to know that they can do it. You don't want to get into too much support, and you don't want the brand to suffer by bringing people who aren't ready. Right. So yes, I found it very easy to find those people, because there were people who had the passion for starting a speaker series, but not the business sense. Right. And so that's what happened. I mean, we had ones in the this city, because Toronto's so large, but other cities as well. And then we started a Spanish version of Spoken Lives. And
Wow.
then I was looking for a French coordinator with the skills that I needed, when
Hmm.
things changed, to be online.
Right.
And I just, through COVID, I reflected that it had taken a lot of work. I mean, I
Hmm.
had a legal agreement drawn up, a lot of money and a lot of work to
Hmm.
make it all come together. And yet the licensees um, weren't, they were moving on. They were learning what they could learn from the concept and then starting their own speaker series. And I thought, hey, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, something's happening here. I'm giving them their leg up, and then, but I guess to the point that they say that, that's the highest form of flattery when we give people the confidence that they need in something where perhaps they didn't have the skill level before, and
Absolutely. And I believe that the course can
can
offer
do
that
that.
to them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And what I love is the mentorship that you offer, because let's talk a little bit about that, because we've all had people that we've admired in our careers. There have been people that perhaps, we've just had a casual coffee with who've given us some great advice. And then I'm sure if you're like me, you've actually had some one-to-one mentoring opportunities. I must admit, though, for me, it wasn't until I had been in business for a number of years, because I used to say I was running at Mach 2 with my hair on fire. I didn't have time to sort of stop to smell the roses. So I was always running to the next thing. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight into mentorship and how it has helped you in your career. So people who have helped to mentor you.
Wow. I have had so many mentors and I'm very lucky. My first mentor was really early on in my career. It was informal, but she was a boss. And I find that there's three types of mentorship. There's the formal, the informal, and the accidental. So when have a formal program, that's pretty straightforward. Now they have them in schools and in workplaces. The informal is that boss that said, hey, you can do this, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to do even more, and I'll guide you through the minefields. And then the informal, of course, is when you sit by someone in an airplane and
Start a
having a
conversation, right?
conversation, or
Yeah.
you hear something at a party. It might even not be meant for you. But for me, I have been very fortunate that people have seen my passion and invested time with me. And I respect mentors greatly. And
Mhm.
I do what they tell me to do. And if it feels right, and then go back to them and say, hey, I've done that. And I've guided so many people to risk asking somebody to mentor them,
Mhm.
clients and friends as well. And it doesn't have to be a personal relationship either. We can read somebody's book,
That's right.
or that sort of thing, and be inspired and take lessons from that, right?
Well, I think, honest to goodness, I think you've read my second book, Breaking Barriers, because I actually talk about the three different kinds of mentors, and we share stories from women. Yeah, seriously, talk about serendipity. When you were mentioning three mentors, I'm like, I think that Elizabeth has read my book, because you were like chapter and verse starting to talk about what my experience with mentorship.
Do you know where I got these three types? Was I did an interview with 100 entrepreneurs
Hmm.
back in 2004, I think, and I found these through story. I found these three types of mentors, and I was
How
really,
funny is that? Because similarly, I went to Harvard Law School and took a certificate program in mediation and dispute resolution with 47 other people from around the world. And it was talking to those folks that I actually came up with the three different types of mentors and ended up writing a book on it. So talk about serendipity and how things, the threads of life weave us together in a really wonderful way. And in my first year of the guest blog series, we shared 100 stories. So, like you, there has just been so many similarities and, touch points over the years that have sort of brought us to this place. Now, we've mentioned that both of us have been in business for a long time. I mean, 25 years as an entrepreneur for a female is quite an accomplishment. So, congratulations to you on that, because being successful over that time, I know what goes into it because I've experienced it myself. Now, as you look towards the future and what's in store for Elizabeth, because you know what, there's lots of life things that happen in that course of process. And, you know, there's things that happen that we're not expecting, and there's things that happen that are wonderful surprises. But as you're sitting with me today and taking a look at sort of, and you must have a 3 to 5 year plan very similar to myself. I mean, I can't imagine that you don't. What do you see in the future for Elizabeth? Where would you like to be if we reconnected in another year and you know, we came back and did another podcast? Where would Elizabeth be in a year?
Oh, great question. Well, I have, of course, Grow at Your Pace, which is a boutique online platform for experts. And in 2023, my goal is to bring 10 experts on to that platform. I have a couple of other courses that I want to provide as well. And there's a book that I'm shopping around to publishers right now. I've published 2 books myself, business books, and they were, you know, quite easy to sell, hand sell to people that I was giving workshops to and people that I was connected to and libraries and that sort of thing. But this new book has a larger audience. And so I'm going to write one more book. And then I have a documentary that I am eager to do. So I have a lot of learning ahead of me.
You know, I really, you know, this platform I had no idea how to use. I mean, you know, 18 months ago or 2 years ago, if you had said to me I was going to have a podcast series with over 130 guests so far, I would have, you know, kind of rolled my eyes and went, yeah, I don't think so. Like, there's an awful lot there that I have no idea how to do. But it's amazing how, you know, talk about resilience and perseverance. And I call it the 3 Ds: drive, determination, and discipline. You know, when you set your mind to it, there's really not much that you can't accomplish if it's within your wheelhouse and within your, you know, I call it your passion projects. What are the types of program? I mean, a documentary series or a docu-series, are you going to be the person behind the camera as well as in front of the camera?
Oh, well, that's a big question still. I hope that I'll be the person behind and in front, but
Right.
we will see. There's a small team already interested in it. So
Isn't that fantastic?
luckily, there's an organization called Women in Film and Television. And again, back to mentors, I'm relying on this topic to be so interesting to other filmmakers that I'll be in a partnership situation.
And I love that you've gone outside your comfort zone. I mean, clearly this is not something that you've done before. So you've got this great idea and you've said, okay, I'm going to make this happen. And I'm just going to start to, you know, take the little baby steps, make connections by email, reach out to people who may have a little experience in that field. How did you find the ask? So what did that feel like in making that sort of first introduction when you were kind of saying, I have this idea. What do you think?
Do you know, when I was a child, I'll say, my mother, one time I picked a trillium, and my mother said to me, I think that's illegal. And I said, oh, no. And she said, but, you know, we should phone the government and ask them.
Oh.
And I still can remember, if I close my eyes, I can remember that the old school telephone, the black telephone.
The rotary, yeah.
It's like, it was pulsing. I get goosebumps telling you. It was pulsing. It was such a scary thing.
Yeah.
I would have been probably 8, 9 years old. But, you know, I dialed the number she gave me. I talked to this woman who was very sweet. And I found out that it's a myth that they encourage, but it in fact is not illegal to pick a trillium, or it wasn't way back in the
yeah, because it's our provincial flower, right?
And anyway, so that was my first ask. And I have really had moments of insecurity, but I have never fail to ask for what I'm interested in. And I just find people respond. And if they don't respond, they're not the right person. So I
Right.
go, okay, next,
Right.
who's next on my list?
Yeah.
And, I keep score. If I start feeling insecure, I'll just, make marks on a page, and then I'll see, oh, okay, this is a good idea. But with both the book and the documentary, I've had very warm receptions. At this point, I think I've refined what
Your ask.
what yeah, refined the ask and refined what people want, right?
Right. Right. Where's your inspiration, Elizabeth? Because, I think as we move through the decades of life, different things happen that inspire us in different ways. So clearly, you're at an age and stage in your career where you've got some inspiration to share stories, to help other people share their stories so that give them a voice, a platform for a voice, which I think is just like phenomenal. Where's your inspiration coming for all of that?
The first thing that popped to mind was children. I love inspiring children, and they inspire me. When we're going for a sleepover with a niece and a nephew this weekend, and I'm packing like books that they can read and books that they can make, and just I know that we're going to have a lot of laughs.
Right.
And so, yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from children, and I want to leave something behind because I've gathered so much knowledge over the years, right?
Right. Right.
And every detour, and my mother used to say, sometimes you just need to take the Lighthouse route. And I'm from Nova
Yes, so
Scotia.
true.
The Lighthouse route is
Yeah.
along the shore, and it's curvy, and you don't get there in the
Not a
fastest
straight
way.
line. Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I'm taking the Lighthouse route, but I'm exploring and gathering information, and it's a joy. It's a joy to be alive. And my big brother died at 50, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
every birthday, his or mine, I remind myself how lucky I am to be here.
And how short
Mhm.
our contribution is to the bigger picture, right? And to your point, we all have something that we're trying to give back to our communities, whether they be large communities or small communities. And I truly believe, I'm sure, like you, that everyone has an amazing story to share, and there's something that we can learn from each other for sure.
Yes.
One of the things that we do in the guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. And your 3 words are be brave and grow.
Yeah.
Give our viewing and listening audience a little bit of an insight as to why those words are important to you.
Wow. Well, I see a lot of people that have setbacks and they get stuck, and they just sit down and they don't continue to grow, and they just say, that's it.
Right.
And I often have the opportunity to support them in some way, to inspire them in a little way, to, help process the loss that they've had. And I tell them, be brave.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I'm feeling really sassy, I'll say, be brave, bitch. We have to be brave, or
Yeah.
else we'll just shrivel up and die.
Yeah, and we can't take ourselves too seriously either, right? I mean, that's the other thing. We're so afraid of failure and we're so afraid of rejection that sometimes we're paralyzed with our own fear. So I love your be brave statement. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure to spend some time. I feel like we're kindred spirits, Elizabeth. Our lives have obviously been very different and yet very much the same.
Yeah.
And I think that you've given our viewing and listening audience some really wonderful things to think about. And as everyone knows, I always share the story as part of our audio, visual, and podcast so that they can connect with you directly and perhaps have a new conversation with you. And I think that's really important. And I thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us today.
Oh, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
We'll have to do it again, right? In another year, we'll follow up and we'll say, okay, what did you do this last year? Let's keep score.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
To you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us in this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduced you to the person behind the logo. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.
Sunrise is just for you.